Good morning, everyone. This is update for July 27, 2022, day 154 of the war, end of the date update. So always we're going to start with the general topics and strategic topics, and then we're going to switch to walk through the front line. So first, situation in Ukrainian economy is getting worse by day, and it's really getting extremely bad. So there are few steel mills or remaining steel mills and iron ore production facilities here near Kryvyi Rih. They're getting idled. Some of them already got idled about a week ago or so, some of them 2 weeks ago, but the sort of remaining one is getting idle end of the month. And so at this just for the reference, Ukraine was a big exporter of steel and also iron ore. So this remaining stream of cash flow, stream of value add for the economy at this point cut off and dead. So essentially, the only reliable or the only remaining ability to generate any kind of positive cash flow for the country and foreign exchange, first of all, is just really agriculture. There's not much really left that's sort of competitive internationally, and it's not being affected by the war at this point. So this iron ore extraction facilities and this steel mill, they were big revenue producers for the government as well, for the tax revenues for the government. So this really going to hit hard Ukrainian government's ability to do anything probably in about 2 months. So it's say end of September, Ukraine government is probably going to get into really desperate situation, and the situation with the foreign reserves, foreign currency is going to be also probably terrible at the same time, and this also there probably will be another round of devaluation of the Ukrainian hryvnia, which already had been devalued to. So the war started at 29, now it's 41 to $1, just for the reference. And it's probably going to as low as like 60, 50, 60, probably more 60, and even could be even worse. So as you can imagine, this makes the population is in extremely difficult situation, not to mention that Ukrainian government probably will have difficulty just paying literally all kind of social and welfare payments that that it has responsibility to pay. So this is gonna get very, very difficult in about 2 months period for Ukraine in terms of economy and just survivability, and not to mention all of the problems that we discussed with Naftogaz and its ability to get through the winter because of the natural gas situation and so on. And plus that, if you remember, yesterday we mentioned that Wagner mercenaries captured the Vugledar power plant. So that actually turns out one of the largest power plants in Ukraine after the nuclear power plant in Enerhodar, which by itself also largest, I think, nuclear power plant in Europe. So those two power plants were, we don't know. I didn't look up actually exact percentage of their energy generation, but they are for sure a significant portion of energy generation in Ukraine. Wouldn't be surprised if it's together like 30% of power generation in Ukraine. So this really means that things are getting definitely economy-wise in difficult situation, and the pain is going to be real pain is going to be felt in few months. Then let's actually switch to internal situation in Ukraine, and specifically population feelings about the peace agreement and territorial concessions to Russia. So there was a poll where there's 84% of those who were polled, and the poll sort of considered statistically representative of the general population, was plus minus some percentage of error. So the percentage of population that does not accept any kind of territorial concessions to Russia stands at 84%. and that's more or less consistent what it was in previous months, as where it was actually even a little bit lower, 80 to 82%. So it's actually a little bit higher right now. It fluctuates, but just for those who are wondering what's a sort of stance of Ukrainian people on all of this, is overwhelming majority does not want to do any territorial concessions to Russia. Now let's switch. An additional that's related to economy. There was a report about Ukrainian banking system, and as a whole, Ukrainian banking system at this point is money losing enterprise. So majority of the banks are losing money. That's not surprise, because they are mirror of the economy. If economy is not doing well, then the banks are not doing well by definition, and that's also potentially could lead to some financial already crisis sometime in the fall, I don't know, October, November timeframe. So things are really kind of like falling at the seams in Ukraine in terms of economy and financial system. So now let's actually switch a little bit to the natural gas supply to Europe. So we mentioned yesterday that Nord Stream supplies from Nord Stream was cut off to bare minimum by Russia. So the specific number is actually 20%. And prices for natural gas on the spot market in Europe went as high as 2.5 thousand, believe US dollars per 1,000 cubic meters of natural gas. So that's what this really means, that no industry can survive that. And the problem with this whole Nord Stream 1 situation is that is contracted natural gas. And it really means the price for that natural gas was contracted at, let's say, $250, $300, maybe $400 for 1,000 cubic meters, right? So since you're not getting that, it's not really cheap. It's actually by historical standards high prices. But let's say if you're not getting those kind of like sort of original prices, and now you have to pay 2.5 thousand on the spot market, that really means that majority of the industry cannot afford to pay that, including in Germany and pretty much anywhere in Europe, and the same, nowhere essentially, right? The same would be true for the US, except US has much better prices, but they're going there up as well, because a lot of natural gas is getting exported from the US to Europe. But nevertheless, there is not enough elasticity in supply of natural gas, because it's gas, so it's much harder to transport. So that's sort of what still keeps relatively low prices of natural gas in the US. But the situation in Europe definitely sort of critical and difficult for industry. And for that reason, German government is restarting nuclear power plants that were idle at the end of last year. So we'll see how that plays out. It's still not going to be probably enough to solve all of the energy problems. Not like probably, for sure it's not enough. So it's just a question of how much damage is going to get done to German and generally European economy. On other news, Ukraine is probably going to get 11 MiG-29 fighters from Slovakia. It's still kind of not totally firm commitment, but it looks like it's, let's say, 95% firm commitment. Then Ukraine got extra 3 self-propelled howitzers from Germany, PH-2000. So the total number of those in Ukrainian sort of hands are right now 18, which, as we discussed many times ago, they are excellent tool. They're really great. This is what Ukraine needs. And the only question of using them effectively and efficiently, because at this point, Ukraine clearly has advantage in this precise long-distance heavy artillery calibers over Russia, meaning that Ukraine has mobile, like Russia has a lot of cannons, but they are stationary, and they can be relatively easily destroyed in counter battery fire because self-propelled howitzer is essentially unbeatable. And if you have UAV that supports it, then it's really easy to pick up stationary artillery that mostly Russia uses. So just to recap, Ukraine has now 18 PH-2000. That's probably the best self-propelled howitzer in the world. Then Ukraine has at least 28 Polish crabs, self-propelled howitzer crabs, and probably more like 36 as well. Not as well, but like 36. So they are also excellent, pretty much on par with PH-2000. So that's pretty strong sort of artillery group. And plus there is also 18 Caesars. They're still great. They're still excellent. They're a little bit there are sort of some disadvantages because they are wheeled and so on, but nevertheless they still outperform Russian equivalents. So that's sort of update on this. And then also Germany agreed to sell 100 units of PH-2000 to Ukraine for 1.7, I believe, billion US dollars or euros. At this point, it's essentially 1-to-1. But except that's probably going to take really long time because apparently German industry is not sort of it's actually not very clear what sort of problems plaguing German industry in terms of sort of ability to produce, because even Poland decided to switch from Germany as a main provider of heavy weapons to South Korea. So Poland is buying close to, I believe, like 1,000 South Korean medium tanks. I think it's a K9, which is pretty good. It's not bad thing. And then they buying also like 600 of self-propelled howitzers, similar basically like crabs, except they are South Korean made. So again, excellent equipment. So the Polish army is going to be really very well equipped as a result of all of this. So again, they were also trying to sort of get all of that equipment from Germany, and obviously they are paying. They have money to pay for it, but for whatever reason, the German industry was not able to produce basically. So that's interesting sort of development there. Now let's actually switch to the front line. First, we're going to discuss obviously a general sort of strategic situation from a military perspective. So first of all, I just want to confirm about that Antonivskyy bridge. So it was hit again. So it's essentially unusable, more or less. It's still not completely destroyed. As we discussed, concrete is really hard to destroy. And it's probably going to be like slow motion, sort of 1,000 cuts affair that's going to take some time before it's completely destroyed. Also, there is railroad bridge that's, I believe, south a little bit, like 5 kilometers south. That was also damaged, also hit with at least 2 rockets. Unfortunately, there's no sort of video picture sort of evidence, but it's probably more damage because steel is a little bit easier to damage. But generally, it's the situation there with supply, with everything, is going to get more and more difficult for Russian troops as time passes by. In terms of pontoon bridges, they're considering that. However, pontoon bridges are much, much easier to destroy. So just 1 or 2 rockets is going to completely destroy it. That's the first thing. Then second thing, the throughput of the pontoon bridges is also much smaller, right? It's just essentially 1 lane versus you had, I don't know how many lanes there was probably like 6 lanes or something, or 3 lanes in one direction. Now you down only to 1 lane, and just that's it. So the throughput is much lower, not to mention that it's really easy to destroy the pontoon bridge, and it's really excellent target. And then Russia doesn't have unlimited supply of pontoon bridges as well. It's pretty limited, right? It's not something that's that's produced in abundance generally, because it's not considered like a main sort of what you need. And the river is long. It's probably at least 300 meters width, so you really need a lot of them, and to kind of support all of this you need to replace again. So really demand for those sections of the pontoon bridge is going to be high. So essentially you cannot really support the amount of Russian troops that are there the way it is right now. They are living there on a borrowed time, essentially. And as we discussed, it's probably going to take some time, months, could be more than a month, for Ukrainian troops to be able to really squeeze out very slowly Russian troops from the bridgehead. But that's probably what's in the cards. On the other, so let's actually switch a little bit to other location. So we're gonna look straight west of Donetsk. So there was a very heavy artillery fire, Russian artillery fire on Ukrainian positions, and that's apparently preparation for the major attack, for major offensive. That's what at least Russian sources claim, which, in our opinion, that attack against well-prepared Ukrainian positions will be extremely it will be suicidal to extent. Will definitely will lead to extremely high losses. And knowing that this is a Soviet general, so they don't care. They don't mind that this is happening. But at the same time, Russia has a constraint. They don't have enough manpower, and trying to attack in a frontal attack against pretty well engineered positions will lead to extremely high losses. So that really can sort of suffocate Russian forces in Ukraine even sooner from ability to sort of basically continue anything in Ukraine. So this remains to be seen if this is true or not. But for sure, there was extremely heavy artillery fire, which again goes to, if you remember, to the discussion that we had, that the destruction of the artillery depots, and that probably ammunition depots will probably not gonna lead to any long-term lasting effect, and Russia still will be able to sort of find strategy to address that. So that's probably the answer to that question, that attacking ammunition depots is helpful, but it's not really helpful. What you really need to target is actually Russian artillery pieces, and that's probably the best answer how you can overcome Russian situation. So, and for that, obviously, HIMARS systems are excellent. All of those self-propelled howitzers are excellent that we discussed. So that's something that needs to be used. The only missing link is those UAVs, equivalents of Orlan 10, in enough quantity. There are some therapeutic number of those, and that's really not supporting number of actual units that are available for attacks. Now let's actually finally jump to walk through the front line. The situation along starting obviously from the very north and then going down in a clockwise fashion. So the situation along the border is somewhat quieter. It's got a little bit quieter on both sides. Now let's move to Kharkiv. Here situation is positional defenses, no changes here at all. Now let's move to Izyum bridgehead. Things here are as well positional defenses, exchange of artillery fire, but nothing really major happening here. Now let's move to North Donbass front line. So far, all of the actions were here. And again, Russian troops were attacking here near Verkhnekamensk, typical areas, Berestove, and then towards Soledar. So those are major sort of typical location, typical areas. Now let's move a little bit south and see what's going on in the southern section. Here, Russian troops are attacking. So they cleared out all of this Vugledar power plant, Novolhansky. So now what they're attacking, they're trying to capture this village Semihirya here. That's the next sort of step. And then also this next objective is this village Kadema. It, we have some early indications that Ukrainian defenses might be crumbling here near Semihirya. We don't have firm confirmation, but there are sort of early indications that things are not going well for Ukrainian defenders in this Semihirya area. But we'll sort of clarify it once we have more full information. Now let's move south. Let's see what's going on west of Donetsk. This is what we were discussing earlier. That this is Russian sources are claiming that this is going to be area of their major expected Russian offensive. That sort of crucial offensive that we all were expecting. And so there was extremely heavy barrage. This town of Avdiyivka, that's we always know. This is immediate objective for Russian troops. So there was extremely heavy artillery barrage here. So it remains to be seen if this is going to be true in terms of that attack is going to happen. So we'll keep you posted, but this seems to be the active area of the front line, even though we discussed this, that this is where actually Ukrainian defenses here are sort of from original time, from 2014, and it's pretty well entrenched, all of this section, with exception of this salient where the Russian troops actually managed to kind of break through those defenses slowly. So now let's move to Zaporizhia front line. Things here are totally static. Nothing really to update here. Now let's move to Kherson bridgehead and let's see what's going on here. Then here what's happening is Russian troops are trying to destroy this bridgehead, this tiny bridgehead that Ukrainian troops hold. And this is obviously, very logical because they know that sort of, how to say, the inflow of blood is stopping. So they want to really push Ukrainian troops out. So they are on a better defensive position before they will be having really difficult issues with the supply of ammunition, first of all, and fuel. So this is, so again, this is the bridge that, so essentially Antonivskyy bridge that's essentially destroyed. This bridge over in Holets River also essentially destroyed. This is severely damaged, somewhat probably still usable, but probably will be new attacks against it. This dam, and there is a bridge, we showed it to you. And then there is a little bit towards south, there is railroad bridge. It was also damaged, but we haven't seen sort of effect of that damage. But for sure, it's probably, to extent probably not usable. We don't know for sure. Okay, thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.